Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pauline. Today we're doing my top books of 2022. But before we get started, there's actually going to be a little bit of a change in this video. So this is a different intro than what I previously filmed. The original clips, which you'll see in a little bit, is me with my pink sweater on. That was the first batch of clips that I filmed for this video, but as I was going through that and editing it, I realized that I didn't really want to go through all 10 books on the list. I just wanted to pinpoint books in that list that I genuinely loved and really stood out to me, and I also remembered details of that, so I didn't want to go through the entire list just to go through the entire list. So I'm cutting out a few books, maybe just like 3 or 4 in the list, and I'm just like really talking specifically about maybe 6 or 7 of the books in here. But that's not to say that I didn't love all of the books that I put in this list, because I did. I definitely remember loving them when I read them. I just don't remember some details, and I also just didn't want to like talk about it and not really have much to say about them. So that's what I changed, and that's why I'm calling this top books instead of top 10 books. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And also in the last 3 books that I talk about, the original clips were corrupted, so I had to refilm those. So you'll see me back in this shirt at the end. Okay, number 9 is so freaking fun and just so spicy and such a great read. This is Heartless by Elsie Silver. Heartless is book 2 in the Chestnut Spring series. I would recommend that you read in order. There's only 2 books out, so it's Flawless, the first book, and then Heartless, this one. I just feel like you should read in order so that you could just meet all of the characters. And not that it really sets up anything for their romance, but you do see the characters, you kind of like get a glimpse of them, you get to know them a little bit more. I just think reading in order is always better. But they are interconnected standalones, and if you really don't want to read book 1, you could just go straight into book 2, and then you'll kind of pick up some clues and some background story along the way. But book 1 is still really good, except I just loved book 2 the most. So this is small town romance, it's cowboy romance, it's single dad. He's looking for a nanny for his son, and everybody that he's interviewed in their town is more interested in him than in nannying his son. In comes Willa. Willa is the best friend of Summer, who is in book 1, and she's the girlfriend of Cade's brother. Again, you should read book 1 just so you set up the characters. But in this book, it's Cade and Willa, and when I tell you guys that it is so hot. There was a spice scene in here that lasted 3 chapters, you guys. 3 chapters, and I remember when I read it, I was just so giddy. I was blushing. I literally could not put the book down. And this was one of those books where I didn't really have any thoughts going into it. Like, I was just excited to read it. But then as I was reading, I just got even more excited to continue. And then I couldn't put the book down. I actually read this on my Kindle, and I haven't transferred any of my tabs yet. But I was looking through my Kindle, and I think the book had over 150 highlights in it. So I'm actually pretty excited to eventually, I don't know when, transfer the tabs in here, because then you could see how well loved the book is. But this was just so much fun. If you're not a fan of people on covers, which I'm not really a big fan of them, the series also has alternate covers available, but actually between the 2, I much prefer this cover compared to the other one. I don't really know. I think this is one of the instances where I prefer people on the covers, but also because when I bought book 1, I already had it in the person cover. So I thought, like, why would I get book 2 in the alternate cover and then have mismatched editions? So here's basically the brief synopsis. Working as a nanny for the world's grumpiest single dad should have been simple, except I can't keep my eyes off of him and he can't keep his hands off of me. It's so good. I just love the characters in here. I love, obviously, them as a romantic couple, but I also love Willa's relationship with his son. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting what his son's name is. What's his son's name? Oh my god, what is his name? No, it's not Jasper. No, it's not. Luke? Is it Luke? I think it's Luke. Wait, is it Luke? Okay, I don't know. The son. We'll just refer to him as the son because I completely forgot what his name is, and I'm trying to flip through and just land on a name that sounds familiar, but it's okay. Anyways, if you haven't read this book, you absolutely must read it. Honestly, if you just want to get lost in a book and you want to get lost in it quickly and you don't want to wait for it to pick up or anything like that, read this book. Book 3 is coming out in February, I think, early-ish February or maybe mid-February, I don't know, but it's called Powerless, and I am so excited to read that one. I've just loved all of Elsie's books that I've read, honestly, and I do want to start her other books eventually, because as it is right now, I literally just cannot pick up random books. I need to go through my TBR, okay? But before I get lost in all this talking, read Heartless by Elsie Silver. Also in the book, I forgot to mention it, there's a hot tub scene in it that lives rent-free in my mind. Oh, it was so good. Okay, we're at number 8, and number 8 is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So The Hawthorne Legacy is book 2 in the Inheritance Games trilogy, and it's a connected series, so you can't just start with book 2 and then hope things will fall into place. You have to start with book 1. I read book 1 in 2020, and when I read it, honestly, I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I wouldn't say that I was immediately drawn into the story until last year. Final Gambit was announced. It was going to be the last installment of the trilogy, and I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I want to read that, so let me just go pick up The Hawthorne Legacy. This has ended up being my favorite book out of the entire series, and granted, I don't remember much from book 1, but when I started this, I didn't even bother rereading that. I just jumped into this kind of head first. It worked out, and this ended up being my absolute favorite from the series. Final Gambit was also really good for me, but I think that this was just my favorite. I just love how invested I was in this. Seriously, I could not put the book down. I brought it everywhere with me when I left the house. And the fact that this has really short chapters, which when I read this, I realized how much I love short chapters. They just make me feel like I'm reading so fast. Literally, I'm chapter 1, and then next thing I know, I'm on like chapter 28. I'm gonna show you guys how short these chapters could be. And maybe you guys don't like short chapters, but honestly, I just freaking love them. So this is chapter 58, and then this is chapter 59, literally 2 pages later. And then chapter 60, 1 page later, chapter 61. I feel like I don't love long chapters because I think I'm more likely to get annoyed of the book that I'm reading. Like, when I'm reading short chapters, I'm flying through them, right? But with long chapters, it feels like I'm just reading to get through the chapter, and I'm waiting for that next break so I could be like, okay, like, that chapter is done. But some books literally have 15 to 25 pages long, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm still here. But anyway, chapter length aside, so the entire series is a YA mystery. It's basically about Avery and then the 4 Hawthorne brothers. So there's Jameson, Grayson, Xander, and Nash. And they're the grandsons of this huge freaking rich billionaire. His name is Tobias Hawthorne. Now, Mr. Tobias loves games. He loves puzzles. When he passes, he leaves all of his money, literally his entire inheritance, to Avery. They don't know how they're connected, and one of the stipulations for Avery is that she has to stay at the Hawthorne Mansion estate. And the entire series is puzzles and riddles, and honestly, I was not good at any of them. Like, I actually would talk out loud, and in some of the margins, I've written out like little clues, and I'm like, oh my gosh, could this mean that? I did not solve any of them. I was just there for the ride, and it was a fun ride. Again, book 2 is my favorite. You will have to read in order. And I started book 1 actually rooting for her and one brother, but by the time I started this and got in the middle of it and got to the end, I switched teams to a different brother. So we're on, what number is this? 3, 5, 7. We're on number 7. This is In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. And listen, this has turned out to be one of my favorite romance books ever. Like, it's high in that list. I love this book. First of all, let's talk about the cover. Super pretty, okay? Just so eye-catching. If you look up the book, you're probably gonna see this picture, which is actually the normal cover. It's the blue cover with the raspberries on it. This one is a special edition cover from Hello Lovely box. I've been interested in reading this book, but I didn't want to start it until I had this cover in hand. And it's actually funny because I didn't even read the physical copy. I ended up reading this on my Kindle. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, but I'll leave the link where you can find the cover down below. So don't be alarmed. Again, this is the normal cover. This is small town romance. It's single dad slash uncle slash guardian. He adopted his niece. It's kind of like childhood friends to lovers. It's also marriage of convenience, which I love that trope. I love it so much. Like, I just love when they have to get married and then they have all of these like domestic romantic scenes and they have all of these small moments, and to top it all off, he calls her wife all of the time. All of the time, and my heart explodes every single time. So this is about Shay and Noah, and the tagline says, she was the one who got away, she just didn't know it. He's been in love with her since they were in high school. They were friends. After high school, Shay ends up leaving their small town and, you know, she builds a life somewhere else. She becomes a teacher. She's actually engaged. The book starts off where she's about to get married. Right before they say I do, I think he objects, right? Like, he says, like, I can't marry you. I don't want to be with you. And it turns out that he was cheating on her, okay? The fucking asshole. So Shay goes off with her best friends. She's brokenhearted. She gets this letter in the mail. The letter is telling her to call this lawyer, right? So she calls the guy. The guy tells her she's left with this inheritance from her step-grandmother, and it's this tulip farm in their small town. And if she doesn't claim it, then I think it gets auctioned off. Okay, but that's not important. Inheritance has two stipulations. She has to be married within the year, and she has to stay at the farm for at least half that time. Guess who she runs into? She runs into Noah. Noah, who has been in love with her since high school. You know, he's kind of like shy, he's kind of grumpy, and I think that's my favorite part about him is he's a shy grump. Like, he's so shy, but he is so incredibly bossy, and I love it. And my favorite part is he offers to marry her, right? And he says like, oh, it's because you have this land, right? Like, I could use some of it, so I'll marry you, you get your inheritance, and then after the year, you know, we'll divorce and get some of your plot to business, whatever. But really, we all know that he's saying he'll marry her because he doesn't want to let her get away. We all know this, Noah. Anyway, I'm getting so worked up over how much I love this book. Basically, I love it. Marriage of convenience, what more could you want? This is number 6, number 7, I think. But honestly, it probably should have been way higher on my list. I don't know what I was doing with this one, but I love it so much. Go read it. All right, so number 6. This is Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Liza. So this says that this is a reimagining of Shakespeare's beloved comedy, Much Ado About Nothing. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, I have no idea what that is. Is that a play? That wasn't really a selling point for me. I picked up the book because I love the back. They basically like fake date for revenge, and also I love the cover. And everything about it just drew me in, okay? Especially the synopsis. When they first meet, they cannot stand each other. They have really good banter, but they're also insulting each other. Except their friends have this brilliant idea to set them up on a blind date with each other. Because they're like, oh my gosh, you're perfect for each other. We're gonna play matchmaker, right? So they get set up on the blind date together, and they don't know that they're blind dating each other. They meet each other and they're like, oh my god, it's you. And then they realize that their friends set them up and played matchmaker. So their brilliant revenge plan is they're gonna fake date. They're gonna make everybody around them think that they're in love. And at the worst possible time, they're gonna break up spectacularly, make a huge deal out of it, and then their friends will never play matchmaker ever again. That's their plan. Do you think it goes to plan? Because they fake date, right? They end up falling for each other, which is one of the reasons I love fake dating so much, is the whole pretending thing and then actually getting to know each other in the process and then just falling head over heels. And one of my favorite parts about this book is it's not just fake dating where at the end of it they go, oh my gosh, it was never real, we were just pretending, right? No, they don't do that here. They actually fake date, they realize they have feelings for each other, and they end up wanting to date for real. I just love the romance. Every single moment between them had me kicking my feet in the air, screaming into my pillow, just so absolutely gone for them. I will say, while the book is 5 out of freaking 5 stars for me, the ending isn't really my favorite. The third act breakup was a little bit rushed for me. I feel like it could have either been fleshed out, gone a little bit longer. It kind of just felt like it wrapped up way too quickly in that sense. But overall, I freaking love the book so much. I loved it so much. I don't know if it's apparent with all my tabs. I hope that was even focused to begin with. Definitely read Two Wrongs Make a Right. You are gonna love this. This was actually my first book from Chloe, and I loved it so much. I think it was a great introductory book for me, for the author. And I ended up reading The Mistletoe Motive after, which is her holiday novella. I read both of them in December, and that one I also absolutely loved. Like, that one I also gave 5 stars. So I feel like I'm just a big Chloe fan now. I'm just gonna buy all of her books. I actually own the Bergman Brothers series. I haven't gotten to them yet, but that is gonna be one of my plans for this year, is to get to her other books, because I've already loved 2 so far. I'm 2 for 2 with her, and I'm just very excited to read the other ones. Hi, just a quick note that the next 3 books are filmed differently because I didn't know that my original files were corrupted until I was editing. Number 3 on my list is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I actually read this as an ARC, so this has all of my tabs and all of my notes in it. I got the finished copy because it's gorgeous. I love the black spine. I love the matte cover. And then also this gold foiling. You can kind of feel it coming off the page. I don't really know what that's called. There's a name for it, but I'm blanking on it. This book was amazing for me. It's my first book from Kennedy, and it's a second chance romance, which I just absolutely love the trope. It's not like any of the books that I just talked about, in that it's not a rom-com, it's not super light. There are a lot of heavy topics in here, and there are actually content warnings available at the beginning of the page under the author's note, which if I can pull it up now, that'd be great. So author's note at the beginning, look them up before you get into the book, because again, there are heavy topics in here. This book was just so full of ache and grief and loss and pain for me, but it was also just filled with so much joy and so much love and healing and growth. And I am such a sucker for the second chance romance trope, but I think what I loved about this one especially is that it's not just a second chance romance for them as a couple, but also because they have kids, so it's kind of like a second chance for their family to come back together. I love the writing. I love feeling so immersed in them that I was literally feeling everything that they were feeling. Their aches were my aches. So this is about Yasmin and Josiah, and they were married and they were so in love, and honestly they were freaking soulmates. I was sold on them from the very beginning. They go through something horrible, they end up getting divorced, and 2 years later they found this happy medium in their family where they're co-parenting their 2 kids and they're also running a business together. And then Josiah starts dating, right? And you know, they've been divorced for 2 years, so to them it was kind of like, okay, like it's time. It sucks that I'm seeing it, but also it's time. And Yasmin's like, okay, you know what, like I'm also gonna start dating. And there's this part that made me so giddy, and I literally was just rooting for them even though they're dating other people. So she goes on a date with this guy named Mark, and it was her first date since they divorced. And so she's getting ready at the house and Josiah ends up coming over, right? So Mark goes to pick her up, he brings her flowers, and she's trying to hand it off to somebody, and it just so happens that she gives it to Josiah, and she's like, can you put these in water for me? And he kind of just like stares at it and stares at the guy, but then like he goes and he takes it, right? So then in the next chapter it's her POV. She's on a date with the guy Mark, and the guy basically says like, oh, I'm pretty sure those flowers are in the trash by now. If I was Josiah, I would definitely trash those flowers. Honestly, when I started this, I didn't know that there was going to be spice in the book, and it was so freaking good. I literally was blushing. I was so giddy. And when I tell you that I was already convinced for them at the start, okay, like I already knew that they were meant to be, they were in love. Throw in the spice and all of their little moments like towards like the second half of this book, and I was a goner. I'm literally looking through the spice scene right now because I'm telling you, I had it tabbed, I had it highlighted, but oh my god, I'm blushing all over again. Definitely pick it up because I loved Before I Let Go, and this is my number 3. Okay, number 2 is Alone with You in the Ether. Now, cover wise, this is the original self-published cover, and this is now the permanent cover from the publisher since it's been picked up. This cover isn't available anymore, and I know a lot of people love this cover, and I think that's one of the reasons that people don't love this cover is because they just think that this one fits the story that much more. I do agree, but I also still love this cover. I love the blue, I love the bees. I think it's so eye-catching, but I can see why people don't like it. And I guess probably I'm a little bit biased because I have both copies, so it's not like I have to choose between the two, but I do still really love this one. When I started this, I think it might have been in May or June or something. I gotta tell you, I wasn't completely convinced at the beginning of the story. Like when I started it, I don't think it picked up for me until about 50 or 60 pages in, which is roughly the start of part 2 in the book. When I started it, I was a little bit confused. I was like, where is the story going? But if that's happening to you, I would definitely say stick it out, because I did, and I ended up loving the book. And when I tell you that this book is immersive, it literally felt like as the story unfolded, as they were doing whatever they were doing together, it literally felt like I was in the room with them. It felt like they were 2 people standing in front of me, and I was just staring at them and staring at the surroundings and watching everything unfold. That's what I mean when I say it was so immersive. The story picked up for me around 60 pages. That's when I noticed that my tabs progressively increased from this point on. And seriously, I think one of my most absolute favorite parts in this book is how it made all of the small intimate moments feel so freaking monumental for them. Like they were as important as all of the big moments, and it was the small intimate moments that literally had me kicking my feet in the air, screaming into my pillow, just absolutely obsessed over the book. Specifically, there was this one scene where she was giving him a haircut. So he's sitting in front of her, she's standing behind him, and he just kind of like leans his head back on her chest, and he takes his hand, runs it up her calves, and I swear to you, that small moment, I lost my mind over. Like I got so many butterflies from that scene, and there are so many scenes in the book just like that that leave butterflies in my stomach, and it feels great, and I love that feeling. Another thing that I loved about this book is how reminiscent it was to how I felt when I was reading Addie. Now obviously the stories are completely different and the writing is also different, but the way I felt in both of them were the same. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in 2020 and I was so in love with the writing there, and I feel like I was kind of chasing that kind of writing and how it made me feel in other books, and I don't think that I really felt that until I started this book. So if you've started it, you're kind of iffy at the beginning, you don't know if you should continue, I definitely think that you should. Before I started the book, I went through the acknowledgements. I don't really know why. I think I might have seen it in a video. I don't know what would make me go through the acknowledgements before I start a book, but I did. I read it, and it just made me that much more appreciative and that much more excited to start the book. And I think because I did that, I loved the book even more. So maybe you should do the same. I don't know, just check it out, worth a shot. I really don't read acknowledgements before I start a book, and I don't remember why I started it with this one, but I did, and I love that I did it. So Alone with You in the Ether is my number 2 book. Okay, we're at my number 1, which, if you followed me for a while, then this is no surprise to you. Things We Never Got Over, my baby. This is number 1 for me. Literally, just thinking about this book leaves me so excited. So I'm gonna try to get through this part without just losing my mind and being so damn giddy over it. Things We Never Got Over is small town romance. It's super grumpy sunshine, and when I tell you, he is so grumpy and he stays grumpy throughout. There's also a little bit of fake dating, and she's a runaway bride and she sweeps into town. She has an evil twin sister, and Knox, the main character, is just very much like, I don't want any relationships, I don't want any commitments, until Naomi strolls into town and literally just throws a wrench in his plan. Okay, he's like, oh, I'm not gonna commit to anybody, sees Naomi and literally fucking falls in love with her. I'm already getting so excited talking about this book. This is not my self-published copy. This is the Bloom Books edition. My self-published copy is the one that has all of my notes and all of my tabs in it. Let me show you. This is a copy. It's glossier, and the Bloom Books edition is more matte. This has so many tabs and so many notes. Seriously, this book was so well loved by me last year. I chased the high that this book gave me in every single book that I read last year. In every single book, I wanted to recreate how obsessed I was with this book. And this is a pretty big book. It's almost 600 pages. It's about like 550. And I went through this so fast. I could not put it down, and I didn't want to put it down. Genuinely, I am just so obsessed with this book. And I will own literally every single edition that they put out of this book, which reminds me, there's actually a special edition jacket cover book coming out for this one. I'm gonna put up the screenshot on the screen. I think it's from Fox and Wit. I might be wrong. I think it's from them, but I'll confirm on the screen if I'm right or not. They posted that they were going to do a special edition of the book, and the moment I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I need it, like literally add to cart right now. I think they said that they're also going to do a special edition for book 2, which is Things We Hide from the Light, which is another thing that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But let's stick to this book right now. This is about Knox and Naomi. Naomi is a runaway bride. She goes to this small town because her evil twin sister calls her and is like, hey, I need your help. Like, I need you to come here. So Naomi goes to the small town, and when she gets there, she finds out that the entire town hated her sister because her sister just created chaos everywhere. And Naomi is just like, you know, sunshine and butterflies, and she was wearing daisies in her hair, and that's why we have daisies on the cover. And it was just so good. Okay, Pauline. Relax. And then Naomi finds out that her evil twin sister lured her there, took her car, took her cash, and left her with a niece that she didn't even know existed. So now she's a guardian, and Knox is over here like, I don't do attachments, I don't do high maintenance women, but her life literally imploded in front of his eyes, and so he's kind of like, okay, like, I'm gonna help her out, and then after that, I'm done. Surprise, surprise, the man is not done. He calls her Daisy because the first time that they met, she had daisies in her hair. And when you read the last line of the epilogue, oh my god, my heart literally left my body. And we also have a bonus epilogue in this, and I love extended epilogues. Are you kidding me? That's literally like a gift. We get an epilogue and a bonus epilogue? Oh! There's a second book coming out in the series, so these are all going to be interconnected standalones, right? So you could read this on its own. Obviously, it's the first book, but Things We Hide from the Light comes out 3rd week of February, and you could also read that on its own if you didn't want to immediately get started on this one, which would be a huge mistake. You definitely have to read this one. But anyways, book 2 is coming out 3rd week of February and I am so excited for it, but especially because I have the copy in my hands. I loved all of the characters in this book, and when I read this, I just knew that Nash was gonna get a book, and especially Lucien is gonna get a book, which his book is gonna be the 3rd book, and judging by the publication schedule going on so far, I'm assuming that it's gonna release early 2024, which I am so excited for his book. He doesn't even have a book yet, and I was already so obsessed with him in like the 10 minutes that I read of him in here. Like, he is everything. I cannot wait to start this. I can't wait to be back in the world. I can't wait to see all of the cameos of the previous characters. I just know that Nox and Naomi and Wei are gonna be here, and I was actually flipping through this a little bit ago and I saw their names and I literally let out the biggest squeal of excitement. But anyways, back to my number 1, things we never got over. If you have not read this yet, you absolutely have to. Please, I'm begging you, go read this book. You're gonna fall in love. It's gonna have you hooked in from the start, and you're not gonna want to let go of this book. But this was amazing, and if you didn't love it, that's okay. Just don't tell me, okay? Because I love this book. Okay, that wraps up my top reads of 2022. It was so much fun talking about these books, and seriously, it is so easy for me to fall back into the hole of obsessing over these, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys get good recommendations out of this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you're planning to read any of them. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.